Did you like the intro for my YouTube channel? Well, I hope you did, because in this video, that's what we're going to create. And we're going to use HTML, CSS, and a bit of SVG magic to create this intro. Now we're going to divide the video in three parts. First, we'll create the SVG text using Figma. Then we'll add a bit of animation using CSS. And then finally, we'll add this video background to our intro. So let's get started. Now to create the SVG text, open your favorite browser and search for figma.com. Now you will need an account to use Figma. If you don't have an account, just create an account. Let me show you. So if you don't have an account, you can just create a new account and it's absolutely free. You don't have to pay or anything. Or if you do have an account, just log in with your account. So I'm going to log in with my account here. So once you log in, you will see this kind of layout, and from here you need to click on this option design file and click on this plus to create a new file. Now what Figma does is it allows us to create SVG text or icons, logos, wireframes for website or any design thing you want, and it's super simple, it's free, and it's my favorite one. So now what we need to do is we need to create a background. So for that, go to this option, this region tools option, click on it and click on this frame. Now it will give you all the frames you can choose from. In the right side, you have ones for phone, tablet. Now I will go ahead with the desktop one and select the iMac. So we have some sort of background, and here you can change the color of the background in this fill option. You can see we right now have white color. So click on this and change the background to anything you want. Now we won't use this background or this iMac layout, but we just use it so that when we create the SVG text, it's a bit more visible to us, because if we create the empty text here, we won't be able to see anything. So now in this background, we need to create our SVG text. So for that, click on this T and it allows us to create any sort of text. So click on this and then you have to drag your mouse to kind of create a box. Now you can enter any text you want. So I'll enter my channel name, Yodkwtf Academy. Now to make things simpler, why don't we go with just one word? So we have the text here, and if I zoom in, you'll be able to see. Now it's very small right now, so let's increase the font size. So what you need to do is select the whole text. And then in the right, you have all the options for the text. You have font styles, you have how bold you want your text to be, you have font sizes and everything else. So I'll make the font size 120. So you see it's a lot more visible now. Then you have a few more options, you can check them out. So if you hover over there or hover over them, you'll see what they are. So we have text align center here. Let's click on it. We can center them vertically, auto height, auto width. Then for my letters, I'll give them a letter spacing. You can see we have letter spacing here of 15%. Okay, we need to select the whole text here. So I'll select everything and give them a letter spacing of 15%. So they have more spaces in between. Let me zoom in a bit. So we have our basic text ready now. Now we need to convert it to an SVG text so we can animate it later. So for that, right click on this text option. And in here, you need to click on this outline stroke. Now you can see this logo has kind of changed. Now what this outline stroke does is it converts our text into single component. And what I mean by that is, initially we had to animate the whole text, but right now we can animate these single letters. We have 7 different components for this word. So all of the single letters have been converted into separate components. Now the next step is give them a border. So for that, we click on this stroke option, click on this plus. Now you can choose the width of the border or thickness of the border, and I'll make it 6 pixels. So it's a bit more visible. Then I'll choose the color white one. And now one of the very important thing, you need to select the center option for the stroke. By default, it's going to give you outside, but you need to select the center one. So once we have our border, we can remove the black background we have. So for that, click on the text and you see the fill here, which has white color. So just remove that from here by clicking on this minus sign. And now we just have the border for our text. So our text is ready. Now to use them as SVG text for our code, what we need to do is right click on them, then select copy paste option and copy them as SVG. So we could also export them as SVG from here, but that would have been converted into a image, and we don't want an image, we want SVG code. So for that, we need to right click here, go to copy paste option and copy them as SVG. Now let's go back to our VS Code to start writing some code. So I'll minimize Figma and I have a folder open here with an empty index.html file and an empty CSS file. So let me create a boilerplate for our HTML file. I'll give it a title of intro and I'll create a main tag here, and let's just paste our SVG text here. I'll save them and we have some nice formatting. So if I refresh my browser, you won't be able to see anything right now because our text is also white and we have background as white too. So let me add some style. But before I add any CSS, let me link my CSS file. Now let's go to styles.css and add some styling. So some basic styles here. Box sizing will be border box. Margin will be 0. Padding will be 0 for everything. Now select our main tag in which we have the SVG text. Give main a minimum height of 100 ph. Display will be grid and we'll use a property called place items and value will be center. So these 3 lines will make everything in the center of the screen, and if I save, it's still not visible because we have the color issue. So let's change the background of the main tag. So let's give a background color of black. Now when I save, we have our black background here and our SVG text is visible, but it's going out of screen. So now let's select the SVG text and we can target the SVG element because we have SVG element here. So for the SVG element, let's give it a width of 100%. So it will not go out of the main tag. And you can see it has fitted inside perfectly. Now let me give it a padding of 1 rem or 0.5 rem, just so we have a bit of margin at the end. So our SVG text is inside the index.html and we have formatted it nicely. So now let's start adding the animation part. So before we add animation, let me specify one thing. Each of these individual letters is wrapped inside this path element. So we have 7 of these path elements inside the SVG tag, and each of those 7 elements represent one of the letters. Now let's move to styles.css to add animation. So since we have 7 elements here, we need to animate 7 of them individually. So for that, let me select the first one first. I'll target the SVG element, then path element, and then use the nhchild property and target the first element here. And now we need to use two properties, and the first one is called stroke hyphen dash array, and we have these two properties just for SVG elements. Now what it does is it creates kind of empty spaces for our element, and let me show you by entering a value. So if we have 10 here, we will have empty spaces on the gap of 10 pixels. So if I make it 20, these spaces will increase, as you can see. If I add 30, there will be much more. And then the second property we are going to use is called stroke hyphen dash offset. Now what this does is it specifies where we want to start this dash array feature. So where we want to start our spaces. So let me show you an example. So if we have 20 here for the dash array and we have these spaces, right? Now if I add a value of 10 for dash offset, you will see that these spaces will move a bit when I save. So I'm saving right now, and you can see they have shifted by 10 pixels. So for our example, what we need to do is we need to get the exact length of each of these characters if we want to animate them. So initially we'll make the characters invisible, and then by adding animation, they'll be visible a few seconds later. Now to get the full length of these indivisible letters, we need to use a bit of JavaScript. So let me go back to my HTML file, and at the bottom, I'll use the script tag and write a bit of JavaScript code. So first we'll create a variable called paths. And now we need to select each of these 7 letters. So for that, I'll use the query selector all method and select each of these 7 path element. So let's do that. We have document.query selector all. And I'll target them using the SVG element and then path element. Now you can console log if you want, but I know I'll have 7 of these path elements. Now for each of those elements, I will loop over them using the for each method, and for each of them, I will console log their full length, and we have a method for that. Let me remove this semicolon from here, and the method name is called get total length. So we'll select the path and use the method get total length, length, and I'll invoke it right away. Now if I save and open my console, so the shortcut for opening console in Windows is F12. You can see we have 7 items here, and each of these represent the total length of these 7 individual letters. So now let me go back to my style sheet. Now instead of 20, I'll make it 319. And now if I save, and for now delete my console, you can see our text is almost visible. Now if I change this dash offset property to 319 again, you'll see the text will disappear. And we have a bit of text here. If I zoom in, you'll be able to see, but for that, let's make it 319.5 instead, just to be on the safe side. So what we're doing is, now if I comment out second line, you'll see we do not have any dashes here, we do not have any empty spaces, because we are covering the whole length of this letter. But now when we use the second property, so what we're doing is we are starting this first property, these dashes, right again from the start, because we are specifying it to move to 319.5 pixel again. So that's what making the letter disappear. Now what the only thing we need to add is animation. So I'll use the animation property. I'll give it a name of animate, and the time will be 1.5 seconds. We'll use ease in out, forwards, And that's all. Now we just need to create the animation. So for that, I'll use the keyframes, and for identifier, you will use this animate keyword. So let's think about it, what we need to do. So initially our text has disappeared because of this property. We are moving this dashes 319.5 pixels. So on final loading, we need to move them to 0 pixel again. So if I make it 0 right here, you'll see our text will be visible entirely. So this is what we have by default. So let me move back to previous step. And now after the animation is done, we need to change it to 0. So let me just copy this property and paste it here. Okay, not, I didn't want to do this. Let's copy it, paste it here. And after the end of animation, we'll make it 0. And now if I save, you'll see we have this nice animation. And we need to do it for the rest of these 6 letters too. So we can just copy paste it 6 more times. 2, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and 7th letter. Now let's change the nth property. We have 7 here, 6 here, then we have 5th one, 4, 3, and 2. So we have animation for all of them. But there's still a few errors that we need to fix. But let me save and see what we have. You can see we have a animation, but it's not perfect. And why it isn't perfect is because we haven't changed this full length for each of them. We have just changed it for the first one. So let me open my console once again. And let me fix for each of them. So for the second one, we have 439. So let's go for 40. 440. For the third one, we have 452. So let's make it 452.5. 452.5. For the fourth one, we have 437.8. So let's make it 438. 438. For fifth, we have 658.25. For the sixth one, we have 303. And by the way, that's why I only chose one word instead of two, because you can see it takes a lot of time. Now for the last one, we have 348. And it will look much better. So let me clear the console and refresh. So you can see we have this nice animation for all of our text. And it looks a lot better now. It kind of looks perfect. But for the example that I initially showed you, I mean for my YouTube intro, I had them animating one after the other. Right now they are all animating at the same time. So for that, what we need to do is we need to add a delay for each of these elements. So the first one will animate right at the start, and let's add a delay of 0.3 seconds for the second one. And now if I save, okay, there is something wrong. Let me check. Okay, so I had to put seconds here, and now if I save, you'll see the first and the rest of them start right at the start, but the second one starts a bit later. Now let's do it for each of them. So first one loads right at the start, second one at after 0.3 second. Next one will be after 0.6 second, adding a delay of 0.3 seconds for each of them. Then we have 0.9 seconds. Let me put seconds once again. Then we will have 1.2 seconds, 1.5 seconds, and finally for the last one we will have 1.8 seconds. Now if I save, you will see it looks a lot perfect. Now another thing we need to do is add a background to it, background color for our text, which we removed initially in the Figma. So for that we need to create another animation. So I'll use the animation property once again. And for this one, I'll name it fill, and we'll take, let me check, we are taking 1.8 seconds for the final one. So this whole animation will take 3 seconds. Ease, forward, and delay will be 4.5 seconds. I'll save and create this fill animation using keyframes. Identifier will be fill, and we'll start from where fill will be transparent, and at the end we'll change our fill to a shade of red color. So 200, 0, 0, and 0.75, and let me save and check. So we have these animations, and then we have this red fill, and it might not be visible because the color is quite dark. So let me change the color a bit so you can see, and we'll have a sort of green color, and I hope it's visible. So let's go back to the red one for now. So we have everything for the animation ready. Now we just need to add a video background and our intro will be complete. Now for the video, I'll use a website called pexels.com. You can see the URL here, PEXELS, and I'll go full screen. And you can get any type of videos you want. They are copyright free and they have high quality. So I'll search for coding ones, and you have a lot of options to choose from. For my example, I'll just use the second one. I'll download them and I'll save it here at my intro recording folder. As you saw, I already had this video, but I'm saving it again just so you can see. And yes, I will remove the first video. They're basically the same ones, but replace. Now I will close this tab. Now in my HTML file, I will embed my video using the video element, provide the path to the video and save. So you can see we have this video right here, and then at the bottom we have our text. So let me go full screen, and you can see we do not have any kind of formatting here. Everything is messed up. So let's start a bit of formatting. So for the video, I'll add a few attributes. I'll add autoplay, I'll add loop, and then finally I'll add muted. Now if I save, you can see we have the video playing here. Now the video is too bright, so we need to add a bit of overlay, and I'll create a div with a class of overlay, and I'll save. You can see the video is playing, but the formatting is still messed up, so we need to go to the styles.css. Here the very first thing I'll do is remove this black background because we don't need it anymore, and our text is not visible, but we'll fix it. So first we'll select the video element and the overlay, give them a position of absolute. The top will be 0, the left will be 0, the height will be 100%. So we want them to occupy the whole screen. That's why we're giving it all these properties. Width also will also be 100%. Now if I save and go full screen, you can see it's occupying the whole space in my screen and I cannot scroll down. That's why we cannot even see our SVG text. So to fix that, go to the main tag and give it a position of relative. So it's on top of this video, and I'll save. And you can see we have our text on the top of the video, but the video is not covering the whole screen for the small screen. So for that, we'll use a property called object fit on the video, and the value will be cover. Now if I save, you can see everything works really nice. We have the video, we have the text over it, and if I refresh, we have this animation. Now I will select the overlay div and add an overlay using the linear gradient property. So I'll use the background and give it a linear gradient of the red color that we used to fill our SVG text, which was 250. Sorry, it was 200, 0, 0, and 0.75, I guess. That will be the first color, and the second one will be RGBA, entire black color with an opacity of 0.5. And if I save, it looks a bit too dark, so let's make it 0.5 only. Still dark, so let's make it 0.25. And now if I go full screen, you can see we have this nice little background video, we have SVG text animation and everything else. So I didn't make it exactly like the one I had for my channel because obviously that would not have been fair. You can explore the options you want. You can add different video background. You can change the font for this text in the Figma. You can change the colors here. You can change the height here. You can basically it's super customizable. You can change the animation for the XVD text, and as you wish, you can change the things you want. But this was how basically you can create an intro video for your YouTube or for your Instagram page or anywhere you're active. And it was super simple. It took a bit of time. The video is around 40-45 minutes, but we had to cover a lot of things. We had to cover how to create SVG text, how to embed it in HTML, how to add animation to it, how to add video backgrounds, and I hope you learned something from this video. If you did, please leave a like, it would mean a lot, and subscribe to the channel for more such content. That's all I have for you today. Thank you for watching and have a good day.